Good afternoon and welcome to our fellow Freedom Online Coalition members and other esteemed government, private sector, and civil society guests. I'm Undersecretary of State Azra Zaya, and I want to thank you all for joining us today at a critical inflection point with technology transforming nearly every aspect of daily life. Our challenge is how we can shape this transformation in a way that maximizes its promise, minimizes its dangers, and reinforces universal human rights. The 2030 Agenda is no exception. As we strive to realize the Sustainable Development Goals, from building resilient and sustainable infrastructure, reducing inequality, and promoting peaceful and inclusive societies, we need to connect the dots between technological advances and increased digital connectivity with progress on human rights and protecting fundamental freedoms. In the end, remaining resolute in our commitment to achieve the 2030 Agenda and anchoring technology policy in rights-respecting and inclusive approaches are mutually reinforcing objectives. So the United States is already working with many of you here today to this end. For instance, the Export Controls and Human Rights Initiative Code of Conduct represents a promising model to prevent the misuse of technologies that enable human rights abuses. Just last week, the United States hosted 18 of the subscribing states, as well as civil society and industry representatives, to discuss how to galvanize participation and follow-up actions to integrate human rights criteria into export control regimes. Today's discussion is also timely given the many technology policy discussions underway within the UN, where we have an opportunity to apply a human rights lens. Notably, this week, we join our UN colleagues in charting a pathway to improving lives across the globe at the Summit for the Future. And this fall, negotiations start on the Global Digital Compact, which, if we get it right, will set a standard to uphold our rights online and protect users from those who would exploit the space to limit our freedoms. There are also new UN efforts on issues around emerging technologies, such as the UN High-Level Advisory Body on Artificial Intelligence and the UN's Code of Conduct for Information Integrity. Every representative present in the room today has an important voice in shaping this growing global agenda. The imperative for collective action inspired the United States to serve as the chair of the Freedom Online Coalition, or FOC, this pivotal year. As FOC chair, we are partnering with governments, civil society, and the private sector to protect and promote the promise of an internet that is open, interoperable, reliable, and secure. Additionally, we seek to bolster the coalition's commitment to connecting the unconnected and enabling access to the internet and digital technologies for everyone, no matter who or where they are. But the FOC cannot and should not do this alone, so we appreciate the presence today of governments and non-governmental actors beyond this grouping. Together, we can shape a future in which all people are able to exercise their universal rights and reap the promise that technology brings. Thank you all, and I'm pleased that one of our valued FOC partners, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, is here and represented by Her Excellency Foreign Minister Hanke Bruns-Slaat. So it's my honor to yield the floor to the Foreign Minister.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, everyone here is united by certain common values. We all believe in freedom and human rights, and we all believe they should apply everywhere. Online, just as much as in the real world. So it's a pleasure to be here with so many partners who have played an important role in the global discussion on internet governance. We need cooperation in all areas, but especially when it comes to digital issues. That cooperation makes all the difference. Only by getting all stakeholders involved can we address the challenges of the 21st century. Inclusion is the key to success, so it's great to have the chance to address you all, including the G77 members present before our panel discussion begins. Because when our predecessors, Secretary Clinton and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands, Rosenthal, started this coalition 12 years ago, our two countries wanted to make it as broad as possible. This goal still stands, and it is more urgent than ever. Because we are about to experience a revolution in artificial intelligence, which will affect every aspect of our lives. As Secretary Blinken has said previously, we are at an inflection point. The choices we make now will determine the future of this technology, and with it, our own future. So we must make the right choices, choices that will safeguard human rights, digital rights, and freedom online. The Netherlands believes that in these choices, two issues are clearly linked: promoting digital rights and bridging the digital divide. A free, open, and secure internet will only be possible if all countries are connected to it, if all countries are digitally secure, and if all countries have rules and regulations that protect human rights online. That's why our panel discussion will be so important. Digital inclusion is the key achieving all these things. Next year, the Netherlands will take over as chair of the FOC. In that role, we will continue the important discussions on internet governance, digital inclusion, and human rights and AI. And we hope you will join us all in that effort. I would like to conclude by thanking Undersecretary Zaya for organizing and hosting this event. And unfortunately, I have to leave somewhat earlier for another event of the feminist foreign policy at the UN. But I'm happy to say that the Minister for Digitalization, Alexandra van Huffelen of the Netherlands, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, will be able to follow the remainder of this meeting. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Foreign Minister, and we are thrilled that you will be the next chair of the FOC and look forward to our continued strong partnership in support of these issues. Now, to further our discussion, I'm pleased to introduce my co-host for this event, U.S. Ambassador at Large for Cyberspace and Digital Policy, Nate Fick. Ambassador, over to you.
Undersecretary, thank you. Foreign Minister, we thank you, and welcome everyone to this event. Today, we will discuss how an inclusive and human rights respecting digital policy can help us to advance the 2030 goals. 6/7 of the SDGs are off track, and critical and emerging technologies may offer an opportunity for all of us to alter the slope of the line to achieve the SDGs, only if we can adopt them in a rights-respecting way. Rights-respecting means multi-stakeholder, it means organic, it means transparent. And so we in the United States have been working closely with all 38 members of the FOC, and we're invested in expanding the FOC, not only in number, but expanding the sentiment, the mindset, to expand and include everyone in the digital future that offers us this shared opportunity to meet the goals that we set together. In the course of the discussion that follows, we're going to try to go around the table and hear from as many participants as we possibly can. I think we've been to enough events over the past several days to know that keeping on track is challenging. I have the unenviable task of trying to limit our interventions to no more than 4 minutes each. So we will go around. We will attempt to get as many people in as we possibly can. We will be joined a little bit later by Secretary Blinken. We then hope to have time for discussion, open discussion around the table, but our commitment is that we will conclude on time and respect that people have events following. So let's begin with SDG 10, focused on reducing inequalities as we discuss access and inclusion. Poor quality access, for example, through issues of affordability, through insufficient digital literacy, through unsafe online environments, has human rights implications. And it's important that we work together to ensure that all people can take full advantage of technology to thrive in the digitally connected world. So first, to Lord Ahmed, Minister of State for the Middle East, North Africa, South Asia, and the United Nations of the UK, to start this topic, sir, what role might there be for coalitions like the FOC to improve digital literacy and strengthen online safety?
Well, Under Secretary Ambassador, it's great to join you all here. I want to make sort of five brief points in the 4 minutes I have. The first is very personal. When it comes to issues of online safety, technology, and human rights, it's very much a live discussion in the Ahmad household in the depths of Wimbledon. With 3 children under the age of 20, I assure you, we have many animated debates about online safety and security. And our daughter, who's now turning and about to go to university, takes it to new levels. As we hide the mobile phone, she stomps around the house saying, "Who does he think he is?" Because I'm also the UK Minister for Human Rights. Minister for Human Rights? What about our human rights? And she's become a powerful advocate for her younger brothers as well. They're joining the bandwagon. But importantly, it's how we come together. Therefore, bringing us together today, it's a real reflection of the United States convening capabilities. And I pay tribute to you. You and I have had many and animated but important discussions on the importance of integrating human rights into various elements of our daily lives, and online safety and security and the digital world should be no exception. We're at a development crossroads. The pace of change of technology is immense. New technologies grip us every day, which often means that people of my age are perceived as a dinosaur compared to many of a younger age. But it revolutionizes what we've done. Even the COVID pandemic demonstrably showed how we changed our way of working and connecting. And that's why I'm delighted that our Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, is hosting an AI safety summit as well, because it's about how we come together to really harness new technologies. This summit will be hosted in the UK in November, and it will give real impetus towards the work on how we create that safe and reliable development space and use of the new frontier, which is AI. Later this month in the UK, we'll also be joining forces with UNESCO, and we're arranging with a whole load of NGOs to co-host the global conference for the celebration of the International Day for Universal Access for Information. For those wondering, there is an acronym for that as well, which will underline the real importance of the online space. And as the country chair of this important Freedom Online Coalition's task force on internet shutdowns, we are working importantly, and it's great to see so many NGOs here, civil society partners, and the private sector, on how we work together to ensure that Access Now and global network initiatives to push back against government-imposed internet shutdowns and restrictions. It is wrong that whenever there is a challenge in a country, that one of the first things we see is a government taking a very draconian step in shutting down the internet. It infringes people's civil rights, indeed human rights. And if I may end by, we shouldn't forget our own backyard, at home, our own online safety bill. What's it designed to do? It will empower more people to enjoy that very right of freedom of expression online by giving users, importantly users, the option of greater control over their own lives and the content they interact with. But ultimately, as Undersecretary has rightly outlined, it's how we come together, how we harness our various expertise, insights, and how most of the new technologies which are coming this year and next, they come sometimes by the week, how we come together to ensure that we define humanity for generations to come. The UK, I assure you, stands very much ready to work with our country partners, but also with the private sector and civil society to ensure that we do harness all our talents, to ensure that we do have that safe online world. We do have the openness which is required in all democracies to ensure the freedoms we all enjoy. But at the same time, the legacy we pass on to our next generation, and yes, in the Ahmed household as well, is one that we can reflect back with pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We turn now to the Association for Progressive Communications. Individuals and communities in marginalized and vulnerable situations experience a disproportionate level of harmful harassment and abuse online. Ms. Ramilo, how can we focus on that threat through policy, legislation, regulation, public messaging, and the development of best practices?
Thank you, and hello to everybody. I speak on behalf of an international civil society organization with members from over 40 countries, located mostly in the Global South. So I do speak from that perspective. We are a network committed to co-creating a just and sustainable world and to ensure that the internet and digital technologies are developed and governed as a public good, and that's where our starting point. As we all know, digital technology has a huge potential to advance and foster sustainable development and human rights. Nevertheless, business models rooted in surveillance and exploitation of people and their data have taken over. The use and development of digital technologies have become rife with exclusion, misogyny, and violence. Women, girls, and other historically marginalized groups face persistent discrimination and violence in online context. Worldwide, we see increasing government control over digital technologies and the internet through use of legislation to silence and persecute, all while digital divides are widening. To address this, we believe that digital policy should address the inequality and abuse of power created by technologies and the policies that govern them. To this end, we propose the following. First, we need to persist in fostering more robust and meaningful multi-stakeholder collaboration, which currently is under threat, where those who are affected by digitalization have a voice in shaping policy at national, regional, and international levels. APC participates in this coalition because we believe that it is a valuable platform to advance this goal. The increasing emphasis on digital inclusion, which I've heard, as a core component of the FOC mission is a step in the right direction, and one where engagement with communities on the ground who are most affected is required. Secondly, we urge states to hold technology companies to account for the harm they cause people and the environment, and we do hear a lot of these examples every day. When states insist on companies doing human rights and environmental due diligence in a periodic and consultative manner, we believe that harms can be mitigated. Due diligence needs to take account of the implications of company policies, products and services on freedom of expression and privacy, rights of users to be free from violence, and to participate in public life fully, as well as their environmental impact. Meaningful engagement of groups who might be adversely impacted by these policies and products is essential. Also, greater transparency is needed in companies' responses to violence in digital context. Additionally, when crafting solutions to address abuse online, we urge governments to reconsider restrictive regulatory options and avoid criminalization that could lead to censorship and persecution, especially of those who are impacted directly by technologies. International human rights frameworks should be the basis for digital policy that seeks to address violence and digital exclusion. Specifically, we propose a gender intersectional approach when developing cybersecurity and cybercrime frameworks to mitigate inequalities and discrimination. In collaboration with other civil society organizations, we have developed a framework and an assessment tool that could be helpful for policymakers working on cybersecurity policies. So if you are interested and willing, we're very open to work with you. Finally, as a global public resource, the internet has to be universal and affordable, and its governance should be grounded in public interest principles. Global digital cooperation can respond to the persistent challenge of digital exclusion through policy and regulatory reform that enables the coexistence of diverse and community-centered models for community provision. There's no one way to provide connectivity, and we see that because there's still billions who are unconnected. So finally, our efforts as an international community to align private and public interests can really serve as an equalizer and enabler of rights, justice, and a sustainable future. Thank you.
Ms. Vermillo, thank you. Now we'll turn our attention to SDG 9, which deals with industry, innovation, and infrastructure. And basic infrastructure, obviously, is an essential component of connectivity. Indeed, it's the foundation on which our digital economies are built. Cable and fiber, wireless networks, satellites, data centers, as the technology increasingly virtualizes, they must be grounded in human rights and democratic values. So, Minister Khalil of the Maldives, as an island nation, the Maldives faces unique challenges in connecting its population. How are you ensuring that your citizens can connect and take full advantage of the opportunities of the 21st century?
Thank you, co-chairs. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'll try to address the question that has been posed to me. I'm honored to be here today representing the Maldives, a nation that is embracing the digital revolution with open arms. We believe in the power of technology as an enabler of rights and as a catalyst for economic prosperity. With 63% of the population utilizing the internet, the Maldives is one of the highest digitally connected countries in the South Asian region. We are also the first South Asian country to launch 5G commercially, and now over 45% of our population has access to this next generation technology. In a country like the Maldives that is made up of widely dispersed atolls and islands with people living in 187 islands, digital connectivity has the potential to unlock and accelerate sustainable development. Recognizing this, the administration of President Ibrahim Mohamed Saleh launched 2 digital platforms, eFAS and OneGov, which allows all our citizens to access the most essential public services from the comfort of their homes. We wish to take this opportunity to express our gratitude to the United States for awarding a technical assistance grant to the Maldives that will help make government services more efficient, less costly, and more resilient in the event of disaster. Specifically, the grant will support the development of a sustainable cloud-based government digital service platform that will also accelerate the digital transformation of the Maldives, national healthcare system, and other citizen services. Most recently, a special platform, Gedorbearing portal, facilitated application for land and applicants being provided by the government to more than 43,000 residents living in the capital city of Male. This platform eliminated the wastage of paper-based applications and people queuing in line for days. Excellencies, the necessity of digitalization was felt the most during the COVID-19 pandemic. During this period, schools conducted classes through e-learning platforms, healthcare services continued through online consultations, and banking services were provided through online transactions. The Supreme Court conducted hearings online, and the Family Court conducted marriages online. Government officials and private sector workers were able to transition to working from home with ease due to the foundations of digitalization which had been planted beforehand. Despite all these achievements, we, as a small island nation, recognizes that there are challenges to digitalizing the entire country, including accessibility and affordability. Nevertheless, we are appreciative of the support and assistance from our international partners on this front. The Ocean Connect Maldives project, currently being implemented, will connect the Maldives directly to through an international submarine cable system for the first time, reducing the cost, increasing the speed of internet access, and reducing inequalities in line with SDG 9. Excellencies, in the Maldives, we are seeing the benefits of a digitally inclusive world, especially in the context of a widely dispersed small island developing state. We urge you to join us on the digital highway where no one is left behind. Let us all walk into the new digital age together. I thank you.
Minister Khalil, thank you. And next, we turn to Secretary of State for Digital Economy, Pedro Lopez of Cabo Verde. What challenges do you face in extending connectivity to all of your communities and citizens?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Your Excellencies, I would like to start by thanking the U.S. government for this opportunity. I know it's been a busy week, but 2 years ago, we couldn't be together, so we need to celebrate that. We, Cabo Verde, a small island state in West Africa, we are truly honored to be part of this distinguished panel today, discussing methods to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals through inclusive and rights-respecting digital policies. It's heartening to see such a diverse group of experts gathered here, all dedicated to the noble cause of harnessing technology for the betterment of our world. Yes, technology is a force for good in our world, and we shouldn't forget that. Allow me to share an exciting development from Cabo Verde. At the beginning of next year, our nation will probably open a state-of-art technology park. This facility is not only designed to serve our country, but also to extend its benefits to the broader sub-region.
Yeah?
There you go.
Now it's better?
Yeah.
Thank you for the notice. Yeah, so I was saying that in Cabo Verde, people are not chased by their skin color, people are not chased by their religion, and people are not chased by their sexuality. And once people celebrate their own identity, we believe they are more close to be innovative. And we need to celebrate that diversity. I would like to emphasize, first and foremost, the political stability that has been the solid foundations of Cabo Verde. This stability has provided a conducive environment for a long-term strategic planning and effective execution of digital initiatives. It is a factor that instills confidence in investors and global partners and promotes a culture of transparent decision-making, accountability, and rule of law. Moreover, I'm thrilled to announce that tomorrow we'll be signing an MOU with Microsoft to be one of the first countries to implement their new digital development program by Microsoft Tech for Social Impact. This strategic partnership signifies our commitment to leveraging the power of technology to drive sustainable development and empower our citizens. As we convene to discuss the pivotal role of technology in advancing sustainable development, it is imperative that we recognize the need for a worldwide regulation. In an interconnected world where the boundaries between nations are blurred by digital interactions, a cohesive framework is essential to ensure that the benefits of technology are distributed equitably and that the rights of individuals are upheld on a global scale. Central to this discussion is the concept of digital human rights. Digital human rights. In this digital age, we must acknowledge that individuals, regardless of their geographical location, have inherent rights that pertain to their online presence. These rights encompass privacy, freedom of expression, and access to information, among others. It is our collective responsibility to safeguard and promote these rights, transcending borders and cultures. Moreover, while ensuring access to the Internet is a crucial step, it's equally important that we go beyond more connectivity. We must prepare individuals to not only be spectators of this rapidly changing world, but to be active participants and influencers in shaping their digital environments. Digital literacy and education are the keys to unlocking this potential. By providing individuals with the knowledge and skills to navigate the digital landscape, we empower them to use technology as a tool for positive social change. This includes critical thinking, media literacy, and the ability to discern credible information from misinformation. Furthermore, we must create environments that encourage innovation and active engagement. This involves fostering a culture of inclusivity, where diverse voices, like small countries of Cabo Verde, are not only heard, but valued. It also means providing platforms and opportunities for individuals to contribute their expertise and insights to the ongoing dialogue surrounding digital policies and practices. It is paramount that we extend our protection to small island states and to fragile nations. Cabo Verde often serves as a lighthouse of democracy, standing as a beacon of hope and resilience in our global community, but this can change really fast. We face unique vulnerabilities in this age of information. Fake news, cyber attacks, and other internet-related challenges pose significant threats to the very fabric of democracy for all the countries in the world, but even more for small states. The spread of disinformation and malicious cyber activities can erode trust in institutions and sow division among communities. It's our collective responsibility to fortify these nations against such threats. This entails not only implementing robust cybersecurity measures, but also supporting these states in these digital literacy programs to equip citizens with the tools to discern fact from fiction in digital realm and promote a constant dialogue with big tech companies that are here today and major platforms and governments. Together, we can build a future where technology amplifies the voices of the vulnerable rather than diminishing them. Let us stand united in our commitment to protect and empower our nations, ensuring that democracy continues to flourish even in the face of digital challenges. On the behalf of the Tech Islands of West Africa, Cabo Verde, thank you so much for this fantastic opportunity.
Thank you, Secretary. And with 7 interventions remaining, I do want to remind our participants to try to limit your comments to 4 minutes. Mariana Eskander is CEO of the Wikimedia Foundation, and we're thrilled to have you here. What tools are currently available that we can all turn to connect citizens?
Thank you for inviting us to participate in today's conversation. I'm the CEO of the Wikimedia Foundation. This is the global nonprofit that operates Wikipedia and other digital projects that advance free knowledge. We provide the technical infrastructure and, more importantly, support hundreds of thousands of volunteers who contribute to Wikipedia. Our organization was accredited to ECOSOC last year. We look forward to supporting our free knowledge projects in advancing the SDGs. We are an active member of the Freedom Online Coalition's Advisory Network, and we co-chair the new task force on trustworthy information online. The volunteers who contribute to Wikipedia, who I have the honor of representing today, are citizens and constituents of all of the governments represented here. They are committed to working with all of you to make sure that the internet evolves in a way that allows everyone everywhere to thrive. But what we're seeing in this age of artificial intelligence is that it's getting harder to ensure that technology serves people and not the other way around. To thrive economically, socially, and culturally, and to exercise all other fundamental human rights, we know that people everywhere need well-sourced knowledge that is available in their own languages. Last month, I had the privilege to travel to Singapore for a global gathering of our volunteers. It is a constant reminder of the humans who are dedicated to ensuring that the internet remains human-led and technology-enabled. People like a doctor named Allah who dedicates all of his spare time to ensuring that accurate information about COVID-19 is available in Arabic, or Tawfiq, who started editing in the Malay language Wikipedia as a student and now as a teacher is focused on how to use Wikipedia in the classroom. The one thing I've learned from the Wikipedia volunteers is how the day-to-day process of building and improving facts works on Wikipedia. It's important to remember this is an encyclopedia. It is not a social media platform or an opinion page. Contributors to Wikipedia collaborate, debate, and discuss their edits in order to write thoughtful, informative articles. They provide citations and sources. They weigh multiple perspectives, all out in the open, so that good faith decisions can be made about content together. And they embrace the spirit of collaboration across national borders to provide the most accurate information possible for the world. They also set and enforce rules for what does and does not belong on our projects, guided by a universal code of conduct and the Foundation's commitment to human rights standards. Wikipedia directly reflects some of the sustainable development goals that we're here to discuss. Our projects contribute to inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning for people everywhere. The Foundation's programs prioritize the advancement of gender equality and empowering all women and girls. But there is no SDG that can be achieved if individuals and communities lack a wide range of well-sourced and accurate knowledge. Reliable, verified facts need people to discover, report, research, curate, translate, analyze, and organize them, which means that people who do such work, including Wikipedians, need to be protected. We are experimenting and have been for many years with how AI tools can help Wikipedians do their work by keeping humans in control of the facts. There is much discussion this week about AI regulation, and we certainly believe that any company and organization that deploys artificial intelligence should be held accountable to and by those affected. Finally, we must not lose sight of the people who governments have an ultimate duty to protect. We need to make sure that the laws and regulations targeting technology also protect the people who are at the coalface of the fight against disinformation. People who discover, report, share, and curate knowledge, including sometimes facts that may be inconvenient to the people with the power to silence them. Thank you.
Mrs. Skander, thank you. We've heard so far from states and civil society. The UN also has a role to play here, and we're pleased to be joined by Secretary General Doreen Bogdan-Martin of the ITU. Secretary General, how's the ITU working to make sure that all people are able to take advantage of the benefits of digital technology?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ambassador, and good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Great to be here. Apologies for being late. I raced from another event downtown. But perhaps, Ambassador, let me just start by saying, I would say this is kind of day 5, I think. I don't even know what day it is. Day 5 in New York. I would say I'm quite encouraged, excited, and optimistic because so much is being said about digital, and the opportunities and the potential of digital. And I was reminded that in 2015, when world leaders came to adopt the Agenda 2030, there was one single reference to digital. Monday, the SDG Summit Declaration actually had 13. So I think that's a huge improvement. And of course, when we look at the digital divide, we still need to be concerned because 2.6 billion people are unconnected, have never ever accessed the internet. But I think when we look at the sort of technologies and the capabilities and the impact, the good impact that AI can have on each and every SDG, we can be encouraged. So at the ITU, we have digital divide and connectivity at our core. We're very focused on making sure that everyone can benefit from the Agenda 2030 and that no one is left behind. Over the weekend, we held our Digital Day, SDG Digital. A lot of you were with us. We had quite an exciting program where we showcased digital solutions for each and every SDG. We know that we can do it. Now what we have to do is actually scale. And I think when we look at the challenges, there are still infrastructure challenges. We need to ensure that the financing is directed to get that infrastructure in place, but it's not just the infrastructure. It's everything that's needed to leverage that infrastructure. We call it meaningful connectivity. So it's about devices, it's about, of course, the affordability of services as well. It's about the digital skills that we need to be investing in. It's about security, making sure that people feel safe when they're online, that content, that they're getting reliable, that they're getting good content, that they're getting multilingual content, and that they can fully benefit from their online experience. We have a number of strong partnerships with many of you here. We work with UNICEF to connect every school in the world to the internet. We're supported by Spain and Switzerland in that effort. We work closely with UNHCR to make sure that refugees have access to connectivity. I think when we look at vulnerable and marginalized groups, we have to make sure that we're getting to sometimes the hardest to connect. And of course, when we look at the divide, there are many divides between urban and rural, between age groups. But one of the divides that concerns us the most is the digital gender gap. And that gap is not getting smaller. And I think we need to start earlier. We need to be investing in getting girls interested in STEM, getting more women into our sector, and making sure that governments in their policies also focus on that gender piece, because we need to make sure that women have access to the internet. And at this point, it's women of the 2.6 billion that are not connected. It's largely women that are not connected. And I think in many ways they have the most to benefit. Our key priority is, as I said, is universal connectivity, and it's also sustainable digital transformation. A lot of us are following the climate discussions this week, and we're advancing green digital and sustainable solutions, early warning systems, e-waste solutions, and I think that there's much that we can do. And I guess finally, Ambassador, I would just add the importance of partnerships. It's really about all of us coming together, because we can get it done if we combine our unique strengths. I believe that we can ensure that when we get to 2030, the world is connected and that we achieve those SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary General. The final SDG that will help guide our discussion today is SDG 16. And as we work together to build just, peaceful, and inclusive societies, we must ensure that technology is used to advance human rights, that the misuse of technology and potential human rights risks are mitigated. So we turn now to Foreign Minister Lipovsky of the Czech Republic. And, sir, the members of the Freedom Online Coalition in March and over a dozen additional governments endorsed a set of guiding principles on government use of surveillance technologies to help ensure that people are safe online. What is the Czech Republic doing to ensure technology is an enabler for all?
Thank you. It's a great honor to have the opportunity to intervene at this event. The topic of human rights in the digital sphere is very dear to me personally. It's certainly high on Czech foreign policy priority list. New technologies affect different aspects of our life and constitute unprecedented opportunities to improve its quality. They have great potential to contribute to development as well as to protection and promotion of human rights. However, they also pose significant and particular challenges. This is why we need to focus, along with ongoing digitalization and advances of new technologies, on protection of human rights in the digital space. And I think the UN is the right forum. Therefore, I would like to announce that Czechia decided to present together with Mexico, Maldives, the Netherlands, and South Africa at the upcoming session of the UNGA Third Committee a new resolution on promotion and protection of human rights in the context of digital technologies. The aim of the resolution is to capture a basic consensus on the application of human rights in the context of digital technologies through their life cycle. The resolution addresses the impact of digital technologies on human rights, such as the right for freedom of opinion and expression, freedom of peaceful assembly, or access to information. We are looking forward to engage constructively with all of you, and I would appreciate your support in this endeavor. I firmly believe that there is an urgent need for governments, civil society, and the private sector to protect the fundamental pillars of democratic society, that is the human rights and the rule of law, and to implement the international human rights framework both offline and online. Let us therefore focus on our efforts on ensuring that the digital policy and technology development function as facilitators of rights and go hand in hand with development policies. Digitalization must serve the people, not the other way around. Also, Czechia pledges to address the digital challenges and to promote a human-centric and human rights-based approach in its commitments for the current membership in the Human Rights Council. We are also actively engaged in the ongoing negotiations on a new regulation of artificial intelligence in the EU. Finally, we are working in the framework of the Council of Europe on elaboration of a legally binding instrument on the impact of artificial intelligence on human rights. In conclusion, let me thank the US for their considerable efforts in chairing the Freedom Online Coalition and for organizing today's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Foreign Minister. And we turn now to Denmark. Secretary Friborg, what role is there for coalitions like the FOC to strengthen a human rights respecting approach to digital and new technologies?
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador, and thank you for the US for hosting this important meeting. Before answering your question specifically, I would like to also give a little bit of context to the situation. And I have to say my first point was literally what the Secretary General of the ITU said, because I really think that this week in New York has been truly inspirational in sort of getting a better sense of how the SDGs can actually be, how we can reach the SDGs by advancing the new technology. I really think the examples you've given here, and we heard it in many meetings, are truly inspirational. However, there's no doubt that the risks are also very daunting. There's been many discussions about the existential risks that can come. But I think what we have to focus on also here is the present challenges, and many have mentioned, I mean, the privacy issues, the bias, the discrimination, and the disinformation, just to name a few. And it's part of our discussion that AI models can be misused in this sense, and there's no doubt that a forum like this is a very important forum for discussing how do we strike the balance between innovation and protection, how do we do it swiftly. If I can just comment both on principle and method, because as our Czech colleague also mentioned, we also have a human-centric approach to this. That means that in our view that we have to have an affirmative vision of AI for humanity, and human rights are an integral part of this vision, as Cabo Verde was also underlining before. It must be technology that supports people, and it must be based on the key principles of trust, transparency, accountability, inclusion, and meaningful engagement. These are fundamentals. And I really think that the FOC is a very important community for that. On method, others have mentioned as well, we strongly believe that it has to be a collaborative effort. Private sector, very important, government, obviously. But I'm also very pleased to see how many civil society representatives are here, because I think that in itself is a very critical importance. And we think that FOC can be in a very strong position to coordinate and collaborate and sort of create this community of stakeholders. My last point, we strongly believe that FOC has the potential to shape these global norms that are rights respecting. But of course, it also comes with a responsibility to lead by example. And I think part of the countries that are here, that is probably also part of our pledge to lead by example. And when we are sort of approaching the negotiations of the forthcoming Global Digital Compact, we should also, in addition to having an affirmative, a rights-respecting vision, we should also very much focus on how we actually build effective accountability and the oversight mechanism. And I think, again, this forum is a very important one to do this. So we are very happy to be a member and continue to be very active. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Secretary. And I'll now turn to Minister Tangara of the Gambia. And sir, the question for you is, how can we work together on best practices related to the individual and our collective efforts to address shared threats online?
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you to the United States for organizing this very important meeting. You see, my colleague from Cabo Verde was talking about the digital highway. And some of us are lagging behind in this digital highway, and if you are not supported, we will end up being stranded there. But for any occasion, you have to look at the opportunities. I think being lagging behind in the digital world has helped us a great deal in transforming our country, and I will tell you why. We have a unique system of election in the Gambia, and before the elections, many people will come to us saying that they want to support us, not understanding our systems. Surya, you had the opportunity to visit the Gambia, but we have a very transparent and unique way of voting. We vote with pebbles. And there is an article by the BBC called The Sounds of Democracy. So you don't need computers or anything, because most of the representatives of the parties are what we call BBC, not the British Broadcasting Corporation, but people born before computers, So that helped us a great deal in changing the government through a very transparent way. And then we engage in a process of trying to reconcile the people, because we had a lot of human rights abuses. Now the challenge is how to deal with fake news. And that's why we have the TRRC, the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. And unfortunately, sometimes with fake news, it's difficult to contain certain anger, because we need to control what you're doing. And you spend most of your time trying to diffuse tension, trying to debunk fake news on social media. And one of the challenges that we have also in the Gambia is that in the cyber world, we don't even own .gm. I was Minister of Science and Technology, and I remember a group of, not to name them, Germans came to me, trying to get it back from those who had the domain name so that we can sell it to them. I said, well, if I'm able to get it, there is no way we can give it back to anyone. And up to today, we are struggling with that, and the President has created a Ministry of Digital Economy, and one of the tasks is to try to get back this domain name. And for us, we look at it from a perspective of challenges, a lot of challenges. This year, our central bank was the subject of cyber attacks, and it was, we are trying to put in place security system, but cybersecurity is a huge challenge in the Gambia. So I think this is an opportunity for us to work with all the partners to be able to deal with this problem. So I think this meeting further recognizes our collective interest in the cyber world, which calls for the cyber cooperation among states to avoid threats that are determined to undermine our cybersecurity. To achieve this cooperation as a developing state with less sophisticated infrastructure, capacity, and resources required to collectively fight to end online threats, while recognizing and respecting the rights of all, I have the following 5 points we must consider with readiness to support developing states. Emphasis is on the word must. 1, we must build strong digital infrastructure that is resilient to complement our efforts. 2, we must build a digital economy for the developing states to fulfill the promise of leaving no one behind. 3, we must build the requisite capacity for developing states to resist the persistent online threats we are faced with. 4, we must be willing to share data in order to deter menaces as well as effectively manage the cyber world. And 5, we must build networks for continued cooperation. Unfortunately, sometimes we just follow trends, embrace ideas without having the minimum requisite knowledge to deal with such a situation. So we hope that this is a platform that will help us share good practices and help us deal with some of our challenges. Finally, I conclude by thanking Undersecretary Surya Zaya, who visited the Gambia, knows very well the Gambia, and thank you for the support of the United States, and the government of the United States for your leadership in our collective efforts to build better and more robust cyber technology to empower citizens. You can count on the Gambia's committed partnership as we look forward to an initiative that is solution-driven for our collective online threats. Thank you.
Minister, thank you for the insightful comments. Thank you primarily, though, for redefining BBC for all of us. And for our final planned interventions, we're going to turn back to the private sector, to Mr. Karam Bhatia of Google and Mr. Steve Crown of Microsoft. Gentlemen, with Mr. Bhatia first, from the private sector's perspective, how can we collectively promote technologies and technology policy that's grounded, truly grounded, in human rights and democratic values?
Nate, thanks so much. Wizra, thank you as well for hosting. We are thrilled to be here to celebrate the work of the Freedom Online Coalition. You know, at Google, we turned 25 this month, 25 years old, and I think from our inception, we've believed that technology can play an important role in catalyzing progress, including in advancing human rights and democratic values. And today, we're more excited than ever by that prospect with the arrival of artificial intelligence on the scene. We also believe that business has an important role to play in this discussion, and so we're grateful for being included here today. Look, I think we see 3 principal ways that companies can collectively work to promote technology and policy grounded in human rights and democratic values. First, advancing human rights with product design. Secondly, embracing digital inclusion in our investments and our activities. And lastly, promoting rights respecting regulation. So let me touch on each of those briefly. First, human rights has to be built into products at the design and development phase. It's why at Google, human rights are built into our AI principles and why our focus is on building and deploying AI responsibly. Let me just give you 2 examples. The first one, using AI, we've been better able to predict catastrophic events like floods and wildfires, we've discovered. Floods, as you may know, affect more than 250 million people every year. In 2018, as a result, we utilized this new technology to launch our flood forecasting initiative that uses ML models to provide people with detailed reports. And in 2021, as a result, we were able to send 115 million flood alert notifications to 23 million people around the world using search and maps. And this year, we're expanding those flood forecasts to river basins in 18 additional countries across Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. And then secondly, we're using AI to dramatically expand the number of languages that we're able to offer Google products in. Last year alone, we increased the number of languages for our Google Translate product, for instance, to include 33 new languages, often enabling hundreds of millions of more remote people around the world to be able to access the internet. We think both of these are examples of the deployment of technology in ways that promote human rights and promote inclusivity. Secondly, in addition to designing products with human rights front and center, we believe that companies and countries need to prioritize digital inclusion. Inclusion is embedded into our development process at Google, but our investments go beyond the specific products that we build. We understand in far too many countries, as a number of speakers have referenced, connectivity remains a huge barrier, and business has an important role to play in addressing that challenge. It's why our teams are committed to expanding internet infrastructure globally. Take just as one example, our recently launched Equiano subsea cable, which stretches 15,000 kilometers and is connecting Europe and Africa, and is expected to lead to a 21% drop in internet prices and a 5-fold increase in internet speed in countries like Nigeria and South Africa. When connectivity is hampered, of course, whether through lack of infrastructure or intentional internet shutdowns, another topic that I know speakers have referenced, human rights are, of course, at stake. And we understand that even in countries with widespread connectivity, threats from bad actors remains a growing concern, which is why we have dedicated resources around the clock to assess, analyze, counter, and work with governments to raise awareness of cybersecurity and online threats. We remain committed to addressing and combating such threats and doing our part to build a safer online ecosystem. Unfortunately, this issue is only growing alongside threats to democratic societies, just as the global information environment is becoming increasingly fragmented. Which takes us to the third opportunity, promoting rights-respecting legislation. Sadly, we see governments globally are developing restrictive rules that often risk making the internet less secure, less open, and less safe. And the adoption of laws under pretenses sometimes like promoting sovereignty, in fact, can have the purpose and effect of precluding access to information and fragmenting the internet. Together, we hope that we can tackle this with rights-respecting legislation that's coordinated globally in the best interests of communities. We see a strong opportunity for the Freedom Online Coalition members to share their commitments to global standards and norms, and we are excited by the prospect of the FOC continuing to work in this respect. Thank you. Let me end by congratulating again the United States for its chairmanship over the last year, and as we look towards 2024, we welcome the Netherlands to the role. We're thrilled to be a partner to you all, and we want to continue to identify ways the private sector can continue to work productively with the FOC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatia. And Mr. Crown, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Mr. Ambassador, how are we on time check? So we,
You have 4 minutes and not a second more, sir.
I can cut it down as much as we need.
I think we're fine. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Well, excuse me. Excellencies and distinguished guests, thank you for the opportunity to present the perspective from Microsoft and other of the important private companies in this space. My role is Vice President and Deputy General Counsel of Human Rights, which speaks to the importance we at the company attach to human rights, which is really at the core of all of our, it's at the core of our mission, and it's at the core of the work that we do. I'll work to keep my remarks short. In many ways, my job is easier because most people preceding me have spoken on things I really thought needed to be brought forward. Joint action, digital technology as an enabler, expanding digital access, using technology for social impact. But I'll say a few things about that, and then I'll answer a question that was posed to me when the panel was put together. First, on joint action. This cannot be overemphasized. We are right to speak of the World Wide Web and the global internet. Digital technologies literally span the planet, but not equally, and not with equal percentages of users or beneficiaries on each continent or in each country, not with identical challenges to human rights in each locale. We cannot presume that any one group, or even governments and industry alone working together, can define a solution for everyone, everywhere. We need a whole of society. It's a global challenge, but even country by country, we need a whole of society approach. Governments and industry, yes, but also academics and think tanks, specialist consultants, civil society, and individual human rights defenders who often bring to light and challenge wrongs that we otherwise would be likely to overlook. We need a multi-stakeholder approach, and I define that as collectively defining problems, not letting the companies say, here's a problem we foresee alone, collectively exploring solution parameters, what actually should we consider as options, collectively agreeing on success metrics, the metrics that matter most to the people most at risk, and we need to be working together to evolve as we gain experience. So how does Microsoft understand and approach these challenges? First, on ecosystems and access, to solve local problems, we believe we need local ingenuity. It's related to the prior point. These things are local challenges. We seek to enable this through programs like our Digital Skills Initiative. We've empowered already with new digital skills more than 30 million people in 249 countries and territories. But of course, online learning only helps if you can get online. People have already noted approximately 2.7 billion people, roughly 1/3 of the world's population, still do not have access to the internet. We believe that internet access and meaningful connectivity is a fundamental right. It has to be what drives us. We are actively engaged in expanding internet access. We have programs you can read about like Airband, and we have committed to working with a global ecosystem of partners to bring internet access to 250 million more people in unserved and underserved communities around the world, including 100 million Africans by the end of calendar year 2025. And now allow me, if you will, to conclude by addressing a specific question posed to me when we were putting together the panel, and that is, what is the potential cost of a misstep in the realm of digital technologies and the internet? Obvious harms might be irretrievable loss of privacy, or pervasive violations of the rights to freedom of expression or belief, or access to information. These are major concerns. I'd say at least equally important is the need to develop and implement regulatory safeguards regarding the deployment of new technologies like generative artificial intelligence. But as I travel the world, I've come to believe that one of the human rights most threatened in our era, a right that has received too little collective attention, something we can address today, is the human right of citizens anywhere in the world to participate freely and meaningfully in democratic decision-making. That, after all, is at the heart of the human rights to dignity, to agency, and self-determination. We cannot put a price on that. So I'll end my comments by pointing to the urgency of doing more to address what Microsoft calls digital literacy. This is the ability to navigate a digital world using reading, writing, and perhaps most importantly, critical thinking skills. This will require unprecedented levels of collaboration across governments, industry, civil society, educators, really, again, all of society. There is no silver bullet to stop the flood of harmful speech on the internet. In part, this is related. It's a tension with the...
Mr. Cron, I'm sorry, we have to interrupt.
Right, happy to,
Please join me in welcoming the Secretary of State of the United States.
Thank you, Uzra. And I actually did not want to interrupt. The important intervention was going on, so we can continue that, or I'll pick it up later. But I'm so gratified to see so many colleagues here today, both from governments, but also from the private sector. I think it speaks to the importance that we all attach to this effort, initiative, and opportunity. We've been extremely focused, thanks to Uzra's leadership, Nate's leadership, on all things digital. And we've, in fact, reorganized our department to make sure that we're appropriately resourced and organized to do that. A big part of that, though, is the work of the Freedom Online Coalition. And this combination of partner governments, but also partnership with civil society, the private sector is absolutely critical to achieving the results that we all seek. When the coalition was founded over a decade ago, I think you've already discussed the fact that the technological landscape was just a little bit different than it is today. And it's quite remarkable. We were talking about this also in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals. When they were elaborated, I think in the in the initial document, there was one reference to the digital space. And now here we are. Some of us were together just the other day also looking at how artificial intelligence might be used to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. But back then, when we were starting the Freedom Online Coalition, we had half as many people as we do today with access to the internet. And that, of course, is still a work in progress because access remains one of the critical things that we have to achieve. But the internet's extraordinary potential is a catalyst to convene new communities, literally spanning the globe, to enable individuals to document earth-shaking events with smartphones in their pockets, to galvanize entire movements, as we've seen. That was just beginning to be understood. The risks, those posed by everything from surveillance technologies to online harassment and abuse, the spread of disinformation, they were largely absent from the public dialogue. And the next generation of game-changing digital technologies, like generative artificial intelligence, had, of course, yet to be invented. So we fast forward to today, and not exactly a secret to anyone in this room, the internet, other digital technologies have fundamentally, and maybe more important, or just as important, likely forever, transformed our societies and our economies, literally and figuratively rewiring how we live, how we work, how we connect. And we've all seen digital technologies demonstrating the incredible power of potential to be drivers for development progress. And we've seen the work that can be done to empower people to defend their human rights, which are the foundation and, indeed, in many ways, the ultimate goal of development. We know and we've seen the applicability of digital technologies to solving some of the biggest challenges that we face, including achieving the SDGs and doing that under the 2030 Agenda. Again, you all know this, but it's a stark reality, and it's one that we have to confront. That reality is that we are far from achieving the goals that we set for 2030. Halfway to the deadline that we gave ourselves to hit these targets, we're on track to hit just 15%. That is simply unacceptable. We have progress plateauing on half the goals. On nearly a third, we've actually moved backward. We've regressed. That's unacceptable. Now, obviously, there were profound drivers and profound shocks that explain some of this evolution. But again, a big part of this week in New York, and maybe the central theme of this General Assembly, is to refocus and rededicate ourselves to achieving the SDGs. And there is extraordinary potential to use technology and to work in the digital space to do that. As I mentioned, on Monday we had this rather remarkable convening of representatives from government, the private sector, civil society, to discuss how to deploy AI to reach the SDGs. Policy and international cooperation around digital technologies are another critical part of this discussion, and that's why I'm so pleased that we're all together today. We can develop the best technologies in the world, but if we haven't determined how to govern them in partnership with those who share our values, these technologies are likely to be misused for repressive or destabilizing purposes, making communities less peaceful, less prosperous, less secure, and unfortunately more undermining of human rights. They're also less likely to be leveraged for advancing societal progress around the globe. The Freedom Online Coalition has demonstrated the potential to be a powerful international platform for all of these discussions, critical discussions, essential discussions, timely discussions. The United States has been very proud to help this organization grow into a major center of action to shape the inclusive, rights-affirming use of digital technologies during our year as chair. The coalition is taking the lead on countering digital authoritarianism and the misuse of digital technologies. In the spring, the coalition issued guiding principles on surveillance technology designed to advance the responsible use of this technology to prevent its misuse. 48 countries, including many outside the coalition, have since endorsed these principles, providing the foundation for international action on a key human rights challenge. And I think it's important not to understate the power and potential of this, because we've seen this time and again. It takes time, but the more you are able to establish a norm, the more you're able to create a basic standard, the more adherence you get to that norm, the more powerful the effect. And what seems to be something that's not a shared idea or ideal in any one moment suddenly becomes, before you know it, exactly that. And that's a tremendous source of strength. It's a source of legitimacy to do what we need to do to make sure that technologies are being used for good, not for bad. The coalition is also focused on advancing human rights in the digital space. We'll soon issue donor principles for human rights in the digital age, which will help shape how public and private investments in digital innovation are actually made. And it's also helping to guide, here again, the responsible use of artificial intelligence. The coalition intends to develop a pledge to incorporate responsible AI practices in government development, procurement, and the use of AI. That's a mouthful, but it's also really important. It's going to commit governments to take an approach to AI systems that actually uphold human rights, international law, democratic values, while managing safety risks. We will put into action our duty to protect human rights under the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. The United States intends to build on the momentum that we've already developed through the rest of this year and then past it. We'll pass the baton to the incoming chair, the Netherlands, and we're grateful for the Netherlands' leadership. And we're excited to have welcomed 3 new members this year: Iceland, Slovakia, South Korea, already making powerful contributions to the coalition's efforts. But I think we also recognize that we can't shape the terms of our technological future through this coalition alone. We need to work with partners from governments in every region of the globe to direct digital technologies toward development, toward human rights, toward the larger global good. And that's why we've asked many of you to join us today. We're committed to working with partners to boost access and inclusion to digital technologies. We're also accelerating work to close the gender digital divide. There are 2 digital divides. There's a basic digital divide where entire countries in some cases and communities or parts of countries in others do not benefit from access, but there's another digital divide, and that's a gender digital divide that we have to bridge. And we're doing that including through the Women in the Digital Economy initiative that Vice President Harris announced just last spring. This will help make digital technologies more affordable and easier to access. It will improve women and girls' digital literacy and skills. It will promote online safety and security. It will foster women-led development of digital technologies. In the days ahead, in the months ahead, in the years ahead, it will ultimately not be our technological capabilities themselves that define our future, but how we choose to use them. And that choice is one of the most important that we have before us as people, as societies, as countries, as human beings. The work of people around this table, in this room, listening in online, watching it online, is absolutely central to making sure, to the best of our ability, we make the right choice. That's an enormous responsibility, but one I'm so grateful to see so many are committed to trying to achieve. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Hi, I'm from the Netherlands, Alexandra. How are you? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Crown, I want to make sure you have an opportunity to conclude your remarks. I apologize
I was
for
happy
the
to yield
interruption.
for those remarks. That was fascinating and really helpful. I just have one last paragraph that I thought I might share, and that is that as we think about democracies and the functioning of democracies, and we combine that with this goal we have of bringing hundreds of millions, literally billions of people online. We have to do more to equip them to make sense of what they see there with misinformation, disinformation. I think that's an opportunity for the global community of those who care about a functioning internet and the advancement of human rights to work together. Thank you.
Thank you for that. In the few minutes we have remaining, I think we have time for one or two brief interventions from the floor, if anyone has anything they'd like to contribute at this point. Sweden.
Well, thank you very much, co-chairs. It's a great honor to be here. The leadership shown by the US in chairing the Freedom Online Coalition this year is very impressive, and Sweden is one of the founding members of the Freedom Online Coalition. We remain a strong supporter and will remain engaged, at full speed at every possible event. We remain one of the major donors promoting human rights on the internet, not least to civil society and partners, including Access Now, Article 19, civil rights defenders, among many others, just to emphasize the importance of the human rights dimension when it comes to freedom of the internet and digital freedom. As many of you will be aware, Sweden, together with Rwanda, are co-facilitating the UN Global Digital Compact, a task that we take with great seriously. The digital track of the Summit of the Future for next year, 2024. The Global Digital Compact will be key to advance the 2030 agenda, not least the SDGs that we've been referring to during today's deliberations, and focus on online and digital spaces, which will impact every part of our lives on the internet. So I'll conclude there, just expressing our appreciation for the American leadership. We look forward to the Dutch presidency of the FOC next year, and thank you very much for a very rewarding meeting. Thank you.
The appreciation is mutual. Thank you. And for our final comment, we go to Georgia.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank the United States government, the chair of the Freedom Online Coalition, for organizing today's ministerial meeting. The rapid advancement of digital technologies continues to transform all aspects of our everyday lives, and their influence will only grow significantly in the near future. By fostering innovation, expanding global connectivity, and strengthening access among states, digital technologies have the potential to enhance efficiency and transparency in delivering the government services, improve stakeholder engagement, and accelerate progress towards the attainment of all SDGs. In this way, shaping inclusive and rights-respecting digital policy is essential to harness the benefits of advanced technologies, promote human rights both online and offline, and eliminate potential harms coming from their use for mailing purpose. In order to put digital technology in the service of democracy, we need to strengthen multilateral collaboration and better coordinate actions and engagement in international fora with all stakeholders. Freedom Online Coalition has an important role in promoting internet freedom and protecting democracy and fundamental human rights. In this regard, we appreciate the U.S. leadership as the chair of the 2023 Freedom Online Coalition and priorities outlined in the program of Action 2023. Georgia, as the member of the FOC, as well as the chair of the Community of Democracies Working Group on Technology and Democracies, stands ready to further stay closely engaged in a collaborative effort to steer digital technologies in sustainable direction. Thank you very much.
Well, in wrapping up, I want to thank everyone for joining, and especially our speakers for their insightful interventions. You've reminded us all not only what we've accomplished, but what lies ahead and what we're up against. So I hope that each of us here will take our speakers' recommendations into account as we continue to work together to protect fundamental freedoms, stand up to the misuse of digital technologies, shape the rules and norms around emerging technologies, and strengthen digital inclusion and promote safe online spaces. This partnership is critical to advancing the SDGs and promoting shared peace and prosperity for all. I think today's discussion also reminded us that the FOC is a force for good and a resource to all. So we look forward to the Netherlands' forthcoming presidency. We look forward to staying connected, whether through our embassies, through the FOC diplomatic networks here in New York or in Geneva and Paris, and through more fruitful and candid exchanges like these. So I thank you all again for your time and wish you a very productive and high-level week. Thank you.